pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
America, and to the
republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Carson,
Here.
Dr. Fike,
Here.
Mrs. O'Rear,
Here.
Mr. Polakowski is absent. Mrs. Raymond,
Here.
Mrs. Rhodes,
Here.
Mrs. Heather Smith,
Here.
Mrs. Kristen Smith,
Here.
Mrs. Williams.
Here. I just wanted to make an announcement that we were in executive session prior to this meeting for personnel and legal matters. Do we have any public comment?
Jan Kiefer.
Give me 1 second to get him on the phone. He wanted me to call him and just hold it up so he could speak.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jan here to speak now.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Kiefer.
I'm looking at the agenda and I'm seeing the items about how federal money.
So we can't hear him at all. I'm so sorry. I mean, at least I cannot.
I cannot either.
No, you can't hear.
Try again.
Okay, can you hear me now?
It's very faint.
Okay, I can wait till the end of the meeting. I'll be nice.
No, that's good. That's much better.
That's better.
All right. Tell me when to begin.
Okay, you can go ahead. Thank you.
There we go. I hear you that too. I'm looking at the agenda on the federal money, and I'd like to address the strings attached to that federal money. There's some really red flags that you have to pay attention to, and I'm just going to list a few of them to make a point, and then we'll get on the spending. But when you have media speaking with one voice, that's a red flag. When you have censoring of credentialed people, and don't start shaming these alternative people who are anti-vaccination, anti-mask, anti-COVID lockdowns. They're our own people, and they're some of the most credentials. Another flag that you need to be aware of is the reporting system for vaccine damage. And remember the cause of death, how many deaths were COVID and how they weren't. And then the vaccinations were going to last for months, and then it was going to be weeks and years, and now we don't really know. You might be taking vaccinations forever. These are red flags, and they're forced on people that have already had the virus and have a natural acquired immunity, which is superior, and it's contradictory to getting the vaccination then. This is we're getting down to words like eugenics now. We're past Hitler's 1939. So I would like to see Southmoreland bring their nurse to the meetings so that when we have medical decisions being made, it's not just the tablet carried out by Mr. Nash from some closed-door superintendent's meeting of some group that's pharmaceutically interested in running the pure program that I just described above with the red flags. We want the nurse there at these meetings, so when someone like this says something, you have the person, your chief medical officer of the school, who can stand up and put a debunking on this, because Otherwise, you've just been debunked. So that's my comment. I'll enjoy the meeting tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Kiefer. Is there any other public comment?
That was the only person that I was contacted by.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. No other.
Posting of policy 249, bullying, cyberbullying.
Board is asked to approve the revised policy 249, bullying, cyberbullying, which has been posted on a district's website for a period of 30 days.
I need a motion.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Carson,
Yes.
Dr. Fike,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Rear,
Yes.
Mrs. Raymond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes,
Yes.
Mrs. Heather Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Kristen Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries 8 yes, 1 absent.
FNB account signatures.
Board is asked to authorize Pamela Mondock, Business Manager, and Margaret Tarzan, Board Secretary, to execute documents related to First National Bank FNB accounts where the Board President is unavailable to do so during the period of time required to open and establish FNB accounts. The anticipated time frame for this authorization is November 12th, 2021 through January 18th, 2021.
I need a motion.
And I'm sorry, there's an error in there, Mrs. Williams. That should be January 18th, 2022.
Yes.
I was just gonna say.
I need a motion.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Discussion.
Why would it only be for the shorter period of time? Like, could we just not extend it, or? Because it's just like, it seems like just for a couple of months.
I think this is because we're transferring accounts over. And
Okay,
in all honesty, right now, the board president might not be the same at the beginning of December. And if we do all of the cards
okay,
with my signature, then that would have to be changed. This is
Okay.
kind of alleviating the process of, we're still obviously going to do it twice though, because it would
okay,
Tarzan and then later with the board.
okay. Okay, that makes sense.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Dr. Fike,
Yes. Does this cost us money?
no.
Then it would be a voice vote. Okay. It's okay. Yes.
Dr. Fike, I did this as roll call because we're talking about signatures on checks. I want to make sure
Yeah,
that,
but it doesn't cost it. I thought we had okay. Do what you want, Michelle. I have a total different conception of what a voice vote is. Yeah. Okay.
I don't
I
need to
understand that, but
argue,
I think voice votes aren't just for money expenditures in my mind. This is, we're voting to allow somebody else's signature to occur on signature cards. And that's not the way it's ever been done in the past. So I think it's important for the entire board and everybody to know that this was a voted on item. Sorry.
Mrs. O'Rear,
Yes.
Mrs. Raymond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rose,
Yes.
Heather Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Kristen Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Carson,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries 8 yes, 1 absent.
Essers 2.
The board is asked to approve the revised ESSER 2 expenditures.
I need a motion.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Discussion.
So this is saying that we have $21,000 of ESSERS 2 that has not been spent yet. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is the most recent updated spreadsheet that we have. The reason why we're having you look at voting this evening on a change of expenditures is because initially we were to spend $420,000 on the to-go bags for the teachers. That expenditure did not come in anywhere near that amount. It only came in at $146,000. So what we are asking to do is put 3 HRU or what is currently known as an HVAC unit on the ESSERS program, which is something that is obviously will impact our air quality, and not only that, help the districts in planning for the future, as our HVAC units are quite aged in the high school facility as well as in the SES and SMS complex. So that's why we're asking you to vote on it this evening.
Now, sorry.
No, go ahead, Nicole, go ahead.
Were we I remember talking about this at last meeting, or maybe it was the meeting prior. I remember we voted on something that had to do with the HVAC system, and that is something that is an expenditure that's approved with the use of ESSERS money. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
So the teachers got those go bags. They got everything in those go bags. They all have them.
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay. It just
Yes.
cost a ton less than we expected.
That is correct. Yes.
Never
Yeah.
happened.
Fortunately, yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, the initial specs that we put out, Mrs. Smith, were pretty substantial. We wanted some pretty expensive things, but John and Steve were able to find similar quality items for less. So they decided they would go those the better price because they did the same work. But the original expenditures, we had budgeted about $420,000. But John and Steve found some things that they thought fit better and were more price appropriate. So we made the adjustment.
So for the 3 HRU units that you're putting in here, have we priced those or got bids or however that works, that we know that 315 is going to cover that, or are we going to get later, oh, we need more money for that?
Well, we're going to have to go forward with that and put out a request for proposal, but I did talk to Combustion Services, who is somebody that we currently utilize, that Mr. Bastian suggested that I contact, and that was the price that they had given us, so that I know that $315,000 is indeed within the ballpark of what is needed.
Okay. I just want to make sure we don't approve it now and then come later, it's like, oh no, we need another $100,000 or whatever it is.
Gotcha.
So.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mrs. O'Rear,
Yes.
Mrs. Raymond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes,
Yes.
Mrs. Heather Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Kristen Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Carson,
Yes.
Dr. Fike,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries 8 yes, 1 absent.
ESSERS 3.
Mrs. Williams, may I ask Mrs. Undle if we have the appropriate prerequisite documents necessary to proceed with this? Mrs. Undle, are we good with this?
With the ESSER 3 discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
So what I would recommend be done at this point in time is to go over this ESSER 3 item. I would recommend voting on it next week, but I do think that a discussion of it this evening is appropriate.
Okay, wonderful.
Do we want to discuss this here or move that down to the discussion portion?
Can we just table it and discuss it?
Yes.
So I need a motion to table this.
I'll make that motion.
I need a second.
Second.
Is it appropriate to discuss here?
I would recommend discussing it under, it's actually already listed under new business, under SR3 below. So if you table it here, I'll note that for next week when we vote on it, that it does need to be taken from the table. Okay.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 PSBA Human Resource Services.
Board is asked to approve the PSBA Human Resource Services proposal for compensation analysis and market assessment for the current Act 93 compensation structure. The cost of the service is $3,500.
I need a motion.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Raymond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes,
Yes.
Mrs. Heather Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Kristen Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Carson,
Yes.
Dr. Fike,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Rear,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries 8 yes, 1 absent.
Michelle, did you move SR3 to new business? Is that what you just did?
Yes, we moved SR3 down to the discussion portion.
Okay. I just wanted to double check because it was on this agenda. Okay.
Yeah, it's still on there under discussion. MOU for technology supplementals.
The board is asked to approve the MOU Memorandum of Understanding with FCA and the district for supplemental positions that will be given to Mr. Steve Smithola until the start of the 2023-2024 school year.
I need a motion.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Raymond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes,
Yes. Yes.
Mrs. Kristen Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Carson,
Yes.
Dr. Fike,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Rear,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries 8 yes, 1 absent.
Job description, Steve Smithola.
The board is asked to approve an updated job description for Steve Smithola, Computer Network Administrator. The job description is attached.
Need a motion.
So moved.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Salary adjustment for Steve Smithola.
The board is asked to authorize an increase in the annual pay for Steve Smithola to $71,138 retroactive to July 1st, 2021.
I need a motion.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Rhodes,
Yes.
Mrs. Heather Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Kristen Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Carson,
Yes.
Dr. Fike,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Rear,
Yes.
Mrs. Raymond,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries 8 yes, 1 absent.
Institute of Learning Student Nurse Program.
The board is asked to approve an affiliation agreement with the University of Pittsburgh School of Nursing in Southmoreland School District.
I need a motion.
So moved. Yeah.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Discussion?
Do you know in what capacity or what program this will be implemented?
It's similar to what student teachers would be, Dr. Fike. They would kind of like job shadow, just get practical experience from our nursing department.
Okay, you're talking about school nursing, right, Vince? That's what I was getting at. This is not clinical. This is school nursing, right?
Yes, Dr. Fike. Yes.
It's not clinical, it's school. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed? Increased rate of hourly pay for substitute cafeteria workers.
Board is asked to approve an increase in the rate of pay for all substitute cafeteria workers to $10.25 per hour. This is at the request of Mrs. Capone, cafeteria director.
I need a motion.
I'll make that motion, Fike.
I need a second.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
This is Kristen Smith. Yes. Carson,
Yes.
Dr. Fike,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Rear,
Yes.
Mrs. Raymond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes, Yes. Mrs. Heather Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries 8 yes, 1 absent.
Cafeteria hires pending clearances.
The board is asked to consider the following cafeteria hires. Hire Robin Hand for the 3.25 cafeteria worker position at senior high. Robin is currently a sub. Hire Brittany Giglotti for the 3-hour Tuesday and Thursday middle school cafeteria position. Brittany is currently a sub. Hire Susan Burkus for the 3-hour Monday, Wednesday, and Friday middle school cafeteria position, pending completion and return of clearances and all related paperwork. This will be a job share. And hire Wendy Poole for the 3-hour temporary cafeteria position at the elementary school due to an extended leave of absence, pending completion and return of clearances and all related paperwork.
Need a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Carson,
Yes.
Dr. Fike,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Rear,
Yes.
Mrs. Raymond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes, Yes. Mrs. Heather Smith,
Yes.
Kristen Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries 8 yes, 1 absent.
Volunteer high school wrestling coach.
The board is asked to approve Jake Beistel as a volunteer for the high school wrestling team. His clearances are on file and up to date.
I need a motion.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Dr. Fike,
Roll call. Yeah. Yes.
Mrs. O'Rear, Mrs.
Yes.
O'Rear,
Sorry. I thought I was unmuted.
Mrs. Raymond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes,
Yes.
Mrs. Heather Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Kristen Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Carson,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries 8 yes, 1 absent.
Volunteer high school and middle school wrestling coach.
The board is asked to approve Michaela Slack as a volunteer wrestling coach with the high school and middle school female wrestlers for the 2021-2022 wrestling season. All clearances are on file and up to date.
I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Need a second.
I'll second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. O'Rear,
Yes.
Mrs. Raymond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes,
Yes.
Mrs. Heather Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Kristen Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Carson,
Yes.
Dr. Fike,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries. 8 yes, 1 absent.
Resignation of substitute custodian.
The board is asked to accept the resignation of Alice Hoke as substitute custodian effective immediately.
I need a motion. I need a second.
I'll second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Do we need to repost that?
Mr. Price, are you
We
on
need
here?
to advertise again
Yes, we'll have to get
next
that
week.
approved post for those positions.
Okay.
Remind me, Mr. Price, and we'll add it to next week's agenda.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
E-rate funding for 2022-2023.
The board is asked to approve the letter of funding for 2022-2023.
I need a motion.
I'll make it.
I need a second.
Second.
Discussion.
Vince, when you say E-rate, is that district-wide? Is that what you're talking about there?
I do believe, Mr. Pushkar, I do believe that is our district E-rate funding.
Okay. District-wide, okay.
Yes, Dr. Fike.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other discussion? Can this just be a voice vote, Mrs. Zundel?
Yes, it can be.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Service proposal, energy management system, preventative maintenance.
The service proposal energy management system preventive maintenance was tabled at the October 21st, 2021 meeting. The board president will now entertain a motion to take this item from the table. The board is asked to
Okay.
consider.
Mr. Masha,
I
I'm
know.
so sorry. I want to stop you there because that first part of it needs to be acted upon by the board. So Mrs. Williams needs to ask for a motion to take this item from the table, and then we'll go to the second part of the item.
I need a motion. I need a motion to take the table.
So
What
moved.
is this?
I need a second.
Second.
Is there any all those in favor?
Aye.
Michelle, what
Aye.
you're taking this item off the agenda?
No, we're taking it off. We're putting it back on the table. I'm sorry. We're
Yeah, okay,
tabled
to
it and now
take
we're-
this item from the
Right.
table. Okay.
Yep.
You're returning it, okay, from the previous table motion, okay. Okay.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yep. Okay. Anyone
I'm not in favor.
opposed?
Okay, I'm opposed, but that doesn't matter.
Okay, Mr. Masha, you can continue with the rest.
The board is asked to consider the approval of a service proposal for energy management system preventive maintenance service at a cost of $14,166 per year. This is a 3-year contract.
So I need a,
I'll make the motion.
Need a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Okay, this is almost a $43,000 preventive maintenance item. Can you tell me what this includes?
Okay, so Dr. Fike, I just want to back up and explain something because we talk about this at great length, Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting. We are
okay. Well, I wasn't. Okay.
Right. It was just a committee meeting, and we would discuss there and then bring back a recommendation. We are already doing this. We just never had a contract with them. Would go back and look at bills that have been paid in the past. You would see that we, for these items, for this maintenance, we were just paying them randomly. They were billing us and we were not paying consistently. So what they did was to enter into an agreement with us that would give us times that we needed to pay, and kept the rate the same as what he was charging of us. If I,
Michelle, this was all preventative, yes. No repairs, right?
No, I don't think that's necessarily true because I feel
talk to me.
Okay, I feel like they were coming in and doing some of the work as well. If something was wrong, they came in and looked at it, and it was part of this. So if you looked at the agreement, I think it gives an amount of time they would spend here each time. And so if you got to 12 8-hour visits a year, they come in. They're here for 8 hours. And during that 8 hours, if I'm correct, Mrs. Mondock, if I'm wrong, you can correct me. But from what I understood from Mr. Basham, if they come in during this 8-hour time and we have X things for them to look at, that's what they do. So we technically already doing this. We just weren't doing it in a pre-approved contract because they were just billing us every quarter that they came. They were submitting a bill, but the district was waiting until like June to pay the whole thing all at one time. So this allows.
Michelle, does this cost us money?
Does it cost us money?
Does it save us money? Save us money.
Well, I think it's not maybe saving us money right now, but like 2 years from now, his prices might increase. He kept the rate the same as what we're paying. Mrs. Mondock did not.
Does this save us money compared to how they were just randomly billing us for what they were doing from time to time? Is this cheaper than that?
I don't think that it is because I think that I think this is the same as what he was charging. Is that right, Mrs. Mondock?
That is correct. He's billing us exactly what we were paying for years.
There's no difference, Pam.
No, but he did. Excuse me. He was willing to hold his price for a period of 3 years. But
that's the advantage you're talking about, is the 3-year hold on level.
Correct.
Oh, okay. And Michelle, would you say 8 hours for how many times? 12 hours a year?
So he comes in 12 times a year for 8-hour visits each time. And it's $142 an hour is what that calculates out to, plus mileage. And that's what we were paying already. We were paying mileage. We were paying the hourly rate. So this locks us into that hourly rate for 3 years. Mr. Basham is very comfortable with the work that this company does for us. In order for us to go out for any bids, there's a understanding for them to come in and do this work. I think Mr. Basham, because he's not on here, I don't think, was telling us you have to have
Michelle, it comes out to a little over $1,200 a day when they come out. $1,200 a day.
Is that what it? Probably there. Well, I would say
14,600 divided by 12 days. It comes out to $1,230 a day. $1,230 a day.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Is this a deal? Is this a bargain? It just sounds big to me. I don't know.
I think that Mr. Basham is very comfortable with the work that they've done while he was here. How many years did he say they've been with the district for? 20-some years, I think.
I believe that is true. I think the
like
years that he quoted was like 22 years. Yeah.
And if I remember correctly too from the meeting, weren't we like this contract is actually maybe even a little bit better than what we've been paying because it will allow us to be more consistent in the payment.
Hey, Michelle, who picks the 12 days? Do you know?
I think we do.
Okay, that's my question.
I don't think he schedules that with Charlie, Mr. Basham, and comes out when it would be convenient for him to be there. I mean, he's not, because I think Mr. Basham actually guides him to what needs to be done for us.
We should set up a schedule because it's preventative. Shouldn't we have a schedule?
I'm not sure if it's how Mr. Basham can answer those questions. I don't know if it's a certain day. Maybe he comes out the 5th of every month or the second Tuesday or whatever that is. I'm not certain on that.
It could be once a month since it's 12 days. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. I think it is once a month is what it is.
Okay.
But that day within the month is determined between him and Mr. Basham, I would imagine. But Mr. Basham is very comfortable with this. And it's been working well since he's been here. He did it in order for somebody else to come in here because we have Johnson Controls. Some has Johnson Controls software has to be the person that would give us another quote on this. And there are not that many companies.
That was my other question. It's called Energy Management System. And I keep going back to Johnson with those 3 words, you know.
Yeah, so it's because you have to have that particular software. That's why we've gone with this company.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not comfortable with it, but I will vote for it. I'm going to have to take his word that that's a good plan for us.
Is there any other discussion? Roll call.
This is Kristen Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Carson.
Yes.
Dr. Fike.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Rear.
Yes.
Mrs. Raymond.
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes.
Yes.
Mrs. Heather Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries 8 yes, 1 absent.
Pneumatic Controls Preventative Maintenance Service Contract.
Pneumatic Controls Preventive Maintenance Service Contract was tabled at the October 21st, 2021 meeting. The board president will now entertain a motion to take this item from the table.
I need a motion.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Is there any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Mr. Masha.
The board is asked to consider the approval of a 3-year pneumatic controls preventive maintenance service contract at a cost of $11,928 per year.
I need a motion.
So moved.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Discussion.
So, Michelle, these 2 contracts that we're voting on that go about $78,000 for the 2. Do you know how many times they come? Do they come once a month?
So I think that's the same thing. I think, let me just take a look at the agreement here.
It says 12.
Well,
Yeah.
12 visits.
Yeah, so it's the same. And this is at
Okay.
$113 an hour. Still the same 90 cents per mile. And we were also doing this as well within last year's budget.
That's $300. That's $300. Yeah. Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I hope they keep things good.
Is there any other discussion? Sorry.
This might actually be for Mrs. Mondock. If we are able to get the approved HVAC systems that were like the newer ones, will those also apply with this contract? Like they will come and service those as well?
I believe that is true, but I will absolutely double check that for you and let you know. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, Nicole, wouldn't they have to service anything we have?
Yeah, like, right. But if we get the new ones, that's what I was wondering, like with what we're going to possibly try to use the ESSERS 2 money for.
If we get new ones, they may not have much to do. That's the other thing.
Well, that's true too. Yeah.
When these new systems are put in, do they come with warranties, guarantees, things like that? Do you know?
That is my understanding. Yes. Because obviously I did not do a full-blown RFP because it wasn't approved for us to look at those type expenditures. But I've got to assume there's a manufacturing warranty. But I don't know the time period.
And do we need to double it? I mean, are we buying a double protection here? In other words, if we already would have it with a new system, because that passed, right? The new system, ESSERS money passed, right?
But this is preventative. So
yeah, this is just to continue to service them. And with that being said, there are still a multitude of HVAC systems that we have in the buildings that are from 98 and 99, as well as 2006.
It will not be replaced. It will not be replaced.
Exactly.
Okay, that clarifies it for me, because if I have a 2-year warranty, I'm not going to buy another 2-year warranty. That's what I was getting at. But you're saying there are other elements in our construction sites that would require this kind of maintenance. Is that right?
Yes, we still have an aging system, which is part of the reason why we asked for what we did this evening.
Okay, so because we're not replacing everything, obviously, right?
No, we can't. Even with we don't have the funds.
No, I'm okay with that, Pam. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Carson,
Yes.
Dr. Fike,
Yes.
Greer,
Yes.
Mrs. Raymond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes,
Yes.
Mrs. Heather Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Kristen Smith,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Motion carried. Yes, 1 absent.
Awarding of bids diesel fuel.
The board will be asked to consider the approval to award the bid for diesel fuel for the 2021-2022 school year per the school district's quantity request to Gutman Energy from the Westmoreland Intermediate Unit Joint Purchasing Consortium for fuel has identified as the lowest responsible bidder, meeting or equaling specifications for diesel fuel at a fixed rate of $2.5597 per gallon.
Whoa.
I need a motion.
That's exciting right there.
I make a motion that we all be able to buy it at that price.
Yeah, amen. Amen.
That's diesel. It's like $3.99 or something like that. That's great.
A motion, or
I make the motion, Michelle.
Okay.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay. Discussion. Roll call.
Dr. Fike,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Rear,
Yes.
Mrs. Raymond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes,
Yes.
Mrs. Heather Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Kristen Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Carson,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries. 8 yes, 1 absent.
Awarding of bids unleaded gasoline.
The board will be asked to consider the approval to award the bid for unleaded gasoline for the 2021-2022 school year per the school district's quantity request to petroleum traders whom the Westmoreland Intermediate Unit Joint Purchasing Consortium for fuel has identified as the lowest responsible bidder, meeting or equaling specifications for unleaded gasoline at a fixed rate of $2.6000 per gallon.
I need a
Fike motion.
I need a second. Okay. Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. O'Rear,
Yes.
Mrs. Raymond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes,
Yes.
Mrs. Heather Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Kristen Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Carson,
Yes.
Dr.
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries 8 yes, 1 absent.
I need a motion to adjourn the voting portion of the meeting.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Michelle, do you not do citizens' comments at the end of this meeting? No,
No, they'll be at the beginning.
but not at,
there-
okay, not at
be
the end.
another
I thought it
portion
was,
right now.
I thought it was both. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so discussion meeting, roll call.
Mr. Carson,
Here.
Dr. Fike,
Here.
Mrs. O'Rear,
Here.
Mr. Polakowski is absent. Raymond,
Here.
Rhodes,
Here.
Mrs. Heather Smith, Mrs. Kristen Smith,
Here.
Mrs. Williams.
Here. I just wanted to again announce that Mr. Polakowski had notified us that he would not be present this evening. Do we have any other citizen comments at this time?
I'm not aware of any. Mr. Smithula, did anyone call in?
I haven't received any phone calls for the end.
Okay, thank you. Okay, minutes, October 14th, 2021.
The board will be asked to approve the minutes of the October 14th, 2021 meeting.
Is there any discussion? Minutes, October 21st, 2021.
The board will be asked to approve the minutes of the October 21st, 2021 meeting.
Is there any discussion? Monthly board treasurer's report.
The board will be asked to consider the approval of the treasurer's report.
Any discussion? General Fund Board Summary Report.
The board will be asked to consider the approval of the board summary report for October 2021.
Is there any discussion? I do have one thing. Mrs. Mondock, do we have an idea of when we might know where we finished for the previous fiscal year?
It is my hope that within the next, well, definitely within the next month, because I am currently working with the Mark Turnley's office, and I know whenever I go in there tomorrow, he'll be in there again. So definitely by the end of the month, I'll have information for you.
Do we know if that's looking promising?
It's not looking too bad. That's all that I want to say at this point in time, because the numbers aren't final at this point in time.
I'll live with that. That's
okay.
Better than not feeling optimistic. Fund accounting and food service check summary listing.
The board will be asked to consider the approval of the fund accounting and food service check summary listing.
Is there any discussion? Cyber charter expenses.
Mrs. Mondark has listed that for the cyber charter expenses supplied for informational purposes only at this time.
Mm-hmm. Is there any discussion on this?
Okay, how is this different than what we just got from that auditor with the $750,000 deficit? How is this different?
What this is it shows you what was budgeted in the 2021 fiscal year, what was budgeted in the 21-22, what was currently used year to date.
Yeah.
So that we can see, when you see the third column over, you'll see what we've spent thus far, what our variance was in the expenditures from from the 2021 through the 2022, and the percentage of the budgeted amounts that we've used thus far, just to give you an idea of where we're at.
Yeah, okay. But Pam, how does that correlate with what he said we could have this big deficit?
Well, he was looking at as if we had the same amount of students that we had
Right.
last
And
year.
are you telling me we don't have the same expectation? Like the kids are different, the numbers are different, the number of students in that are different?
The numbers, I don't have the exact numbers of students, but I can tell you the dollar amounts that we have been invoiced, because that's what I looked at, what we actually have paid thus far. And the dollars that we've paid through the end of October were lower than what we had paid in the previous year.
Is it a lot lower, Pam? Is it a lot lower?
Yes, that is your variance column. So if we're looking at that, well, I mean, it's almost $75,000 when you net it out from one year to the next. But I mean, it's lower, so that's definitely a good sign.
It's a good sign. But Pam, what I'm looking at though is that we've had trouble getting hard numbers. Am I right, of kids and so forth, or are you satisfied that you're getting hard numbers?
We're getting the numbers on the invoices. I can definitely, I know Joanne will not be in tomorrow, but I can have her work on, have her and Mrs. Tarzan work on getting us the actual numbers, because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Mrs. Tarzan, you have that information as well?
Yeah. You know what, Pam, when I look at the, we have this thing called the 20-year study or something like that, and every year we get that information about how many kids we have, period, That number has not changed. Last year it changed, but then at the beginning of this year, it kind of went back to where it was before. I think it was 1,801 or 1,807, and now it's 1,801 or 18. It's like we're on the same track. I think, am I wrong, Vince? Am I wrong that our student number is pretty much the same as it was before?
We have 1,830 students here, Dr. Fife.
Is that right, Vince? Is that right?
We have 1,830, yes.
Okay, that's even higher than it was at some point. So, so we're saying that maybe we have less kids that we have to pay cyber for. Vince, is that a possibility? We're paying less than.
If the values that Ms. Mondock is paying is less, then I would have to assume that it's correlated to there are more people, there are more students that came back into the brick and mortar and less in our cyber.
And that's what I'm saying. When I really keep a close watch on that, and I can remember the numbers. And what you have this year is not bad, is what I'm saying. It's not bad at all. In fact, it's a little bit better for brick and mortar attendance. Okay, now what I don't know is if they raise the price of cyber school or not. You know, hey, a loaf of bread went up. I don't know what they're going to do with it. But I think what I'm thinking is if the numbers stay close, that big deficit may not be there by the time the year ends.
Exactly. And that's because he brought that up in his audit report, which is one of the reasons why I presented that to you in for the board reports, because I'm trying to make the business office more transparent so that you guys have a better idea of where we're at and what's transpiring throughout the fiscal year.
Pam, you can't do any more than you're doing. Wonderful one. But what I'm saying is I'm thinking maybe that deficit may not come to haunt us by the end of the year. Because I'm looking at something real basic, which is called student enrollment, okay? And I like what I'm seeing, and that makes it less likely that we have that deficit. Are you with me on that, Pam?
I'm with you. I get what you're saying. Yes.
Okay, and that's real good. I'm really glad to see that, because I want more kids in our schools, of course.
Oh, agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So, okay, all right. I just, and I understand he was looking at a different set of numbers, but maybe by the time the year ends, it will be more in our favor, is what I'm hoping for.
And that is my hope. And like I said, that is one of the reasons why I'm supplying that information to you all now, because I want to make sure that, we continue to give you more information and more updated information so that we all know what's happening.
You're giving us trends, and that really helps a lot.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Mrs. Mondock?
Yes.
I'm assuming this does not include SOLA, correct?
It does not include SOLA. That is correct.
Do we have any foreseeable issues with budgeting with that? Are we in line where we should be?
I will have to look at that. I know Mr. Masha has been working with the SOLA kids. Do you have any idea, Mr. Masha, whether or not we're higher or lower than we were last year?
Currently, right now, we have 65 students in SOLA. which I do believe is a lot less than what were enrolled in last year.
That's less, Vince.
Yes.
Mrs. Mondock, were you done, Kristen? Okay. Do we so when it comes to charter, is each student in any particular grade, is it vary on how much it costs per student?
It depends on whether or not they are regular ed or special ed. There are obviously two varying rates for that.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of figured if we are able to know how many students there are and divide that by the amount.
Well, it depends upon, each individual school as well.
Yeah.
So I can work on
Okay.
I can work on getting some of that information out to you.
Some of the other,
Pam, some of the special ed rates are significantly higher than regular rates.
They definitely are. Yes.
A third more, sometimes 1/3 more.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Over, what were you saying?
That's okay. To me, it just seems like there isn't much of a difference of only 74,000. That's not, to me, I don't know, maybe I'm looking at it different, but it's not a big difference from last year to this year.
It's not huge, but I'm very hopeful that the trend is going down. And I'm going, like I said, I'm going to continue to monitor it because obviously I believe that's something that you all need to be kept apprised of.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Is there anything else? ESSER's 3.
Mrs. Williams, I don't know. Is Mr. Boring on here requested the possibility?
Right, he's not, so skipped over that. I don't think Dr. Clara saw him in the waiting room.
Who are you waiting for, Michelle?
Sorry, we had wanted Mr. Boring to maybe give us an update on fall athletics, and he's not on here. So we'll just.
Oh, okay. I thought we were talking about ESSER's 3. I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about ESSER's 3.
We are right now. Sorry, we had added a piece to the agenda just to kind of get an update on fall sports. We can include that next month with our board reports.
Okay. Are we going to talk about ESSER's 3?
Yes, I'm just waiting on Mr. Masha to read.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
But give me a second to open up the document. I'm having some problems here.
I think we're all going to have to go back up to the top with this document, but I'm also going to ask that if somebody can screen share this document, because it is, well, everybody at home, if you're trying to look at this document that we're going to discuss, it is up on the special voting agenda items, but it is not included in the discussion portion. You just flip back there and you should be able to open the document that we're talking about.
Is there a specific proposal we're looking at?
I believe that it is
Proposal 5. Is that correct, Pam? You're muted, Pam.
I think there's only one that's included in our documents. Well, maybe not.
No, I see 5 proposals.
Okay. So we're looking at
proposals.
proposals.
I should have proposal 5. I apologize. I shouldn't have added all those on there. I should have just done the proposal 5. That's what we're looking at right now.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry. I didn't realize they were all there.
I didn't
Would that
either.
be the document that I have in front of me called ESSER's 3?
Yes.
Okay, it doesn't say 5. It just says ESSER's 3.
At the top of that, Dr. Fike, do you have something that says plus middle school library cost and custodial? I want to make sure you're looking at the correct.
I think that's in here, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, custodial, yeah, middle school, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. I have a question just to kick us off. So this has $420,000 for 4 HRU units. Didn't we just approve putting money into ESSER's 2 for HRU units?
You did. This is for additional. Whoops. Just wanted to make sure I was not unmuted. I was able to talk. Yes. We have 4 additional ones because it has come to our attention that Unfortunately, the units at the high school are from 98 and 99 when the last renovation which was done out there. Typically, the useful life for those items is 15 years. They're well past their useful life. The same thing, we're coming upon that in SES as well as SMS. We have a multitude of different ones on our building roofs right now. And I would say that the preventative maintenance has helped save them, which is something that you all voted on this evening. So I thank you for that. But, looking forward to try to project and help the district be in a better financial state within the next coming years, my suggestion would be to add these additional 4 in there so that we can continually help the district in long-term planning, which is part of what I want to do once I get next year's budget.
So how many units are on each building? Like, is it 1 unit per building or like?
Oh, goodness, no, there's a multitude of units on there, and I apologize. I don't have that here with me at home. I know I had asked Mr. Basham that question. There's a multitude of units.
Okay, so we're between ESERS 2 and ESERS 3, we're replacing 7 at a cost of, it's looking like about $100,000 each between.
Yes,
the
105,000. It was estimated by combustion at $105,000 each.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but on this one section, you have that there's a total of 36 units.
Thank you. Yes, I knew I had it at some point, someplace.
It says there's 4 additional HVAC in ESERS 3. We currently have 4 units at SES SMS. 3 HVAC and air handlers in ESERS 2. We currently have 3 at the high school. 36 units in the district. This would replace 7.
Yes, thank you. I thought I had put that on there at some point in time. Thank you.
Sure.
I mean that we haven't replaced the high school units since it was built.
Since the renovation was
Well,
done.
the renovation in 1999.
Yeah, I actually asked
Kidding.
Charlie. I wish I was kidding.
Wow.
I had contacted Charlie and had him send Steve up on the roof to check the years, because once I looked and saw how many we had that we were concerned about at SES and SMS, I'm like, well, my goodness, wonder what the high school looks like. And like I said, he sent him up there to look and review, and I'm like, oh dear goodness, I'm like, that's bad. And that concerns me, because that's if we have 1 or 2 go down in a year, God forbid, I mean, where do you find that type of money in the budget to fix them? So that's why it was my hope that we could do something with ESERS funding, which is definitely something that they talk about in all the ESERS publications that I've read. So that's why I'm hoping that you guys will let us do something of that nature to kind of look for the longevity. And then if you have to replace 1 or 2 a year to get us, to keep us with better filtrated air and to make sure that, we have heat and cooling systems that work appropriately, then we have the opportunity to put 1 or 2 in a budget per year. But right now we're at a deficit because we haven't addressed them for so long.
Mrs. Mondock or Dr. Clara, I'm going to say, is it possible, just for those of us who were not in the ESERS 3 meeting and for the public, to quickly, and I mean quickly, go down and just give like a short sentence about what this means, like credit recovery? I'm assuming that means SOLA for high schoolers, correct?
Yes.
So is it possible to just run down through those instead of jumping from place to place?
I don't have it to share.
Okay. So I'll just ask you, elementary and middle school summer program, I'm assuming is the same thing we did last year?
Yes, our intention is to run another version of that we ran last year.
Okay, and then IXL program?
It's a program that's a supplementary program for kids who want extra enrichment or support. It's something you can log in. We're buying licenses for. It's not required, but because some of our kids can't come to after-school activities or but may want access to some of that practice material, it's another resource we can provide to families that's tied to what we do.
Okay, and then we have a bunch of math and reading interventionists. Are these permanent positions or are these temporary couple-year positions?
These are temporary.
Okay, so and that will be an understanding with MOU with the union?
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
So any positions we have here that are paid with ESSER's money are tied to ESSER's funding.
Right, which is not permanent funding. It's going to run out eventually.
Yep.
And Dean of Students, are those temporary or permanent positions?
Anything that's part of the funding is part of the funding. That's it.
Okay, and the Dean of Students, will they be administrators or are we looking at teachers doing that half-time like we had discussed before?
From my perspective, they would be folks who are already in our system who would be moving into those roles and hopefully wanting to do that kind of work. I know that's something we have some folks going back to school for and maybe interested in moving up into those roles, getting that experience, but not necessarily being locked into it permanently.
Okay. And those would be full-time positions, though. They would be a full-time Dean of Student, not a half-time, correct? Like they wouldn't be teaching and then also be a Dean of Students.
That is correct.
Michelle, can I ask something? A Dean of Students for grades kindergarten and 1 at Alverton?
So there's one in Alverton, which would cover the primary center as well as the high school. So when we say Alverton, it's Alverton.
Wait a minute, say that again. That's important to me. It'll cover the grades kindergarten and 1 and then 9, 10, 11, and 12?
Yes.
Yes.
Huh, okay. Thank you for that. Okay.
And then the Dean of Students at Scottdale is obviously going to cover through 8.
2 to 8.
Entire.
Yes.
Do we have job descriptions for these Dean of Students and what their expectations would be?
Yeah, I was just going to ask if we knew what exactly we thought the Dean of Students would be doing.
We are currently working with the association to come to an MOU for that. So we are in the process of working on that.
What do you have in mind?
They would be dealing with student disciplinary behaviors, situations.
They'll be like assistant administrators.
They would be dealing with student behavior. They would be, a Dean of Student is a quasi administrator, yes.
Yeah.
The primary function is to do some of the disciplinary things. They're not major cases. If there are major cases, obviously the building principal needs to be involved in that, or significant suspensions or an expulsion. But they would be handling day-to-day student issues, so the principals can be in meetings with the teachers talking about learning and making sure that we're getting some of the things that we said were important in our comprehensive plan, getting those things done. Right now, our principals are running pretty hard, trying to make sure that they're handling some of the disciplinary issues that are happening across the district. And that doesn't leave a lot of time for them to be in the curriculum meetings or in classrooms or meeting with teachers or even spending some time reading on what they want to do with their programming. So this would allow them to be a little bit more hands-on with the things that are academic in nature, not solely just handling discipline. We don't want them just to be managers. It's a pretty expensive managerial position.
Why did we take the assistant principal from the high school?
We were trying to cut costs, Mrs. O'Rear. And this was obviously not the time to do that, but that was shifting from within. And I think we're finding out that that position was probably necessary. But one of the things that came out in the ESSERS meeting was that the Dean of Students could also help cover lunch duty at the high school. So this was a big thing for me. Covering lunch duty at the high school meant that the guidance counselor would not have to cover lunch duty at the high school, and the guidance counselor could get back to seeing students that needed to be seen. So some of those types of things could be covered by a dean of students. I think it's also important to note with quarantining, sickness, just things that have happened in general. We've had a lot of days that we were short administration in different buildings, and Dr. Claire and Mr. Masha have done a really great job of trying to cover the district where we've been short. But I think these people would also help in those instances as well. I think it's very difficult whenever you're down 2 and 3 administrators and you only have 4. So we have had days that we've been doing that. So that's one of the reasons why I thought during the ESSERS meeting that this type of position was important to the district.
So if we are bringing in the dean of students, that hopefully somewhat frees up the counselors to go back to doing their work, do we then still need to also be hiring additional counselors? Like, and not that I'm like, I'm just asking the questions because I'm not trying to like disparage anyone, but I feel like we're spending, I don't know, I'm not sure that, I just want to know that it's being directed in the right place, I guess.
So I think one of the things that I want to emphasize.
Heather, can you mute? Heather Smith, can you mute? He's getting a lot of feedback.
Sorry.
It's okay.
So one of the things that our counselors have emphasized is that, especially at the high school level, testing takes up a preponderance of their time. They spend a lot of time with Keystones, or they spend a lot of time on some of the other tests that are required that they have to do, which again, doesn't leave them a lot of time to work with kids. Taking them off of a lunch duty is great, but that's not the only time that they're spending where they're really not getting to do some of the things that would be great with kids who are really struggling to get back into the groove of school. So this person could do some of the testing, could be responsible to kind of make sure that those things are happening. So counselors can be working with the kids that they have relationships with. So that person's goal is really more kind of managerial, to make sure that those tests are being given and they're done correctly. I would want somebody who actually knows how to do that, to give those tests. You don't want that not to go well.
Okay, so those tests need to be administered by counselors. I just don't know logistically how that happens.
Traditionally, they have been, and it's an important thing. You wouldn't want to make a mistake with that. We want to make sure that we have people who are qualified and understanding of the importance of doing it correctly. And I know
what kind of underlies my concerns is that, at least as far as at the elementary school, I know that frequently kids are not getting their itinerant classes because we need subs, or we don't have subs, or whatever the case may be. And so teachers are just keeping the kids when they would be in itinerants, and teachers are teaching, they don't ever get their break or their planning periods because they have kids, and kids aren't getting itinerants, which is also an important component of their education. And so like, part of me is like, do we need more teachers, whether they be subs or whether they be whoever? Do we need more teachers in the building instead of more administrative directed people? That's my concern.
I think if we could
Candace, when it's my term, I want to speak to that item directly. When it's my turn, directly, I want to speak to that.
That's fine. I just wanted to say something real quick, Dr. Fike. I think there is money already available to bring subs into the district for these teachers that would be out. The problem is we can't get them. So like, it's not I don't think it's a matter of we're not wanting to do that so that we are pulling from itinerants. I think those itinerants are being pulled because we don't have a suburb.
But I mean, also hiring long-term subs or hiring building subs is different than hiring from people who are getting paid $100 a day to come if it's convenient for them. So, I mean, you maybe get a different response if you're hiring a slightly more permanent kind of situation. I'm just throwing stuff out there. I just know from my own child's personal experience, this is the stuff I'm hearing about. And I don't want our teachers to feel overloaded, and then we're hiring more administration and not really helping out our teachers. So it's just, some food for thought that I wanted, to have out there.
We absolutely
can we just stop for 1 second? Before we go any further, Mr. Masha, this document was not shared with the public. It is not on public board docs.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Is there a way that you can please add that to public board docs? And then once he does that, if everybody at home that's trying to look at this document refreshes their board docs, that should pop up for you. So can we just give that a minute for the public to be able to get caught up to this document?
Mrs. Mondock, do you have the clean version of this?
Dr. Claire, can I ask a question while
I'm working on that right now. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm working on that right now.
Can we also just post up version 5 so that there's no confusion as to what we are speaking about? Thank you.
Michelle, let me know when I can speak to the Assessors 3, please.
Okay, that's, is there a line item specific? Have we already discussed it, Dr. Fike?
No, you haven't discussed it at all.
Okay,
I would like to comment on this document in front of me that is Assessors 3, proposed expenditures.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Just on page 1, in the back of page 1, there are 64 items listed. 21 of them deal with student education. Of the 64 items, Michelle, 21 deal with student education. Everybody who gets on the school board has an agenda, and I do too, and it's student achievement, academics, and student learning. I look at this list, and it is virtually two-thirds, 65% of it has nothing to do with student education. And I resent that. I believe that every single penny of this stuff, look, I understand we needed to upgrade the HVAC system, some of that. But when I go through item after item after item that has nothing to do with student education, Michelle, our kids have gone backwards for 3 straight years academically. We are spending this ESSER's money on 65% of it on nothing to do with student education. And I am irate about this. I would never vote for this proposal. It's got everything in its brother except there's only 3 words to determine whether students learn or not. Time on task. We need people in there to teach students all day long to try to bring them back to a reasonable level of achievement. And that's not where this money is just government money that's being blown, as far as I'm concerned, is being blown. I'm sick at my heart that this money is not being used for academic achievement. 66% of it, in my opinion, is for everything but education. Hire 50 nurses, hire 1 million counselors, hire deans of students, hire all that. How does that help one single kid learn to read or compute or to be able to succeed academically? None of that helps. Everything is geared towards behavior. Behavior. Do you know what improves student behavior? And I've been there for 30 years. Academic success is what improves student behavior. We have got to focus on our students instead of all of this other stuff. Now, I will say in 22, 23, those lists, 8 out of 14 of them do deal with student learning. That's in 22, 23, not this year. I've said my piece. I want the public to know. I think this money is a disgrace that is being spent on everything. 66% of it, 65% of it is on everything but direct student achievement. We should be hiring teachers. Academics. No, we're going to hire counselors and deans of students and behavioral specialists. No, that's garbage. We are not in the business of...
Can I please say something?
Can I say
go ahead,
something?
Mr.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm
Yes.
done. I'm done, Michelle. I'm done. I've said my piece.
Dr. Fike, how many times have you ever been or asked to be at the high school to observe what goes on?
I've worked in 100 high schools in my lifetime.
I don't know how. That's not the question, Dr. Fike. How many times have you been to Southmoreland High School to see what goes on?
School board members are not permitted to come in there and observe students and see what goes on, Dan. You know that.
They are.
Hey, open invitation, Dr. Fike, for you to come to Southmoreland High School and to see what goes on tomorrow. please.
Do it, Dan. Don't teach the kids. Do everything else. We're open to clinical therapies. We're going to do mental health treatment. We're going to do all this behavioral management.
I want you to come to Southmoreland High School at your convenience to see what goes on before you go on and on about not needing counselors or not needing deans of students. I want you to come up there and see what happens before you make the statements that you do. Please. I've been asking this for board members for years. It's an open invitation to everybody to come up and see what happens at Southmoreland High School before you cast judgment of what me or my staff does.
I'll take that, Dan.
I want to
Mr. Crawford.
I want to tell you something. I have heard people call the high school the Wild West. I have never once criticized you or anybody else in that high school. Never once. Never once. I've heard people complain and scream and yell that it's the Wild West.
Come up.
So if I could interrupt
every day.
If I could interrupt real quick, I think that behavioral health is something that I've been actually pushing for because we're in a different world than we used to be in. These kids are dealing with things that we have never had to deal with before. We didn't have to do it in school. The teachers that are there right now didn't have to do it in school. And I think that having the behavioral health aspect is just important as having more teachers. And I think those are the two most important things that we can get out of this ESSERS money is more teachers to help the kids catch up and excel, because that's what we should want. We should want them to excel, not just catch up, and to deal with the situations that they're in right now. It is a completely different world than it used to be. And I mean, just in some of the COLA meetings I've been in, every single administrator is underwater. They cannot catch up. So they do need some help. I mean, and they can't focus on education. They can't focus on assisting the teachers and leading them in ways to help the kids because they're so underwater with everything else.
Yes, I want to clarify. I am not in any way saying that we do not need to address behavioral health for our students. Like that is 100% something that needs to be very important for our district and for our students. I just want to make sure that our teachers are our first line of defense. So I guess I just want to know that what we're proposing, anything that we're proposing, whether it be dean of students, counselors, whoever, I just want to make sure that it is also going to be helpful in supporting the teachers as well. Like that's just what my point was, is that I know, I want to make sure that, because they're obviously dealing with disciplinary issues, themselves. It's not like that all exists beyond them. So my point was just, that our teachers going to be getting, does this help support them in the process as well, I guess was kind of my point. But I definitely do not think that that's anything that we should ignore or, disregard as our responsibility, because it certainly is, without a doubt.
Negative classroom behaviors could totally disrupt a teaching session. So counselors do more, they do a lot of addressing those students' behaviors that are in need. So I do believe that there is a correlation of everything that is listed on this spreadsheet that enhances our ability to be able to better teach and address the needs of our students. There are some severe emotional issues that our students are dealing with at this point, especially coming out of ESSERS. Out of the pandemic. The last year and a half have been very difficult for our students, and it's been difficult for the adults. So just imagine what it's like for our student population.
So can I just say something, because I don't want there to be confusion with this document, and apparently there already is some. So when you see this yellowed out section on your spreadsheet and it says LPN, this many days, this much money, we are not talking about hiring 1, 2, 3, 4 nurses. We're also not talking about hiring 4 guidance counselors. What this yellow section is if we needed to outsource these items, we could go to these agencies and get a nurse for this dollar amount for that many days. Or we could get a nursing assistant, which is up above, for that much money. This was just showing us that these are the options available to us if we had to go to outside agencies. So you're not going to take $49,000 plus $54,000 plus $60,000. That's not what this is. That's not saying we're hiring all of these extra things for this much money. It was just showing us that if we went with an agency because we couldn't find an additional counselor, we could go with this outside agency and that would be the rate for a counselor. That's all this yellow portion was showing. So I just wanted to make sure that the board and the public is aware that these
I didn't realize that.
Additional nurses. This is.
I didn't know what the yellow was, but I was confused. So
it's one nurse, and it's if we needed to get that nurse from an agency, these would be choices that we could go with. Also, a choice that we could go with instead of hiring a school counselor might be to hire a behavioral therapist, which might be something that would be good to have versus having an additional guidance counselor. All things that were optional in this yellow, just a way for us to get those people in place. If we
But these math and reading interventionists, we're hiring each one of those, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Just making sure, because I think that's really important.
Right. So my question about the reading and math specialist, when we say K through 5, so let's bounce back to, because this is just a question. Our summer programs weren't super attentive because by that point, kids were spent, families were spent, everybody was done. Would it be better to take that money and add an additional reading and math interventionist at the primary center and have a separate one at the elementary school? Because let's face it, those kids in those age groups are the ones that have had the least amount of school and maybe could really use the support in reading and math. And again, I think it's hard to get people to attend after school tutoring because that's giving of their time. I think we're going to be able to do more intervention in the time that we actually have these kids during the day versus expecting people to attend a summer program. You know, that would eliminate a bus, that would eliminate the middle school program, that would eliminate the elementary program. Maybe just some money in there for credit recovery for middle school. But I just think that might be a better use of the money to have more interventionists in the day-to-day school versus a summer.
I agree. I think that's an excellent suggestion. You get more quality for that. Again, summertime is voluntary. And while we did worry in the last summer that because kids have been away from us for so long that they would come back missing some skills, and we did get some kids to participate, we didn't get all the kids that we would have wanted. And so one of the things we know is during the scheduled part of the day, we have students, right? We have them for that block of time. And the more people we have, especially interventionists, really the beauty of that is that we'll be able to break kids into smaller groups when we're doing intervention and have more groups overall. So the idea of that is that when we're looking at data and trying to determine what kids need, the more teachers we have available at that time, the more groups we can have, smaller numbers to really address some of those individual deficits. So I think that's an excellent suggestion. I know that our thinking in the summertime had been that was really kind of skill building and closing some gaps. But if we have kids every day, all the time now, it might be more prudent to do it ahead of time and not wait for the summer to try to catch them up.
Would it be something that maybe like for the high school, instead of necessarily like an interventionist, like we actually hire like a reading teacher? Like I mean, I understand we have English teachers and language arts teachers and stuff like that, but like a specific reading, like an actual teacher for long-term purposes instead of just short-term purposes.
So there's certainly value.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I think there's certainly value in adding any piece to the table. Question would be, how do you serve that many kids with just one, right? With reading needs,
Sure.
how would we identify them? But Nicole, I like what you're saying in terms of, hey, at the top level, in our 9 to 12, what are we doing for them? Like, we spent a lot of time really looking at early parts of our educational programming because those are foundational. We still have kids
And we should be. I mean, I totally agree.
but
Yeah.
we also have kids who reach us who are still struggling, even in the upper grades. And while we do have services for them, there are times where there are things that they need that just don't fall under the umbrella of any of those things. So I think we need to think about how that might work. But I understand what your question is, and I get it. It's a tough one because at the high school level, again, also your schedule is such that there isn't a lot of freedom or a lot of time. We have an SSP period that Mr. Kropchak's building where you can do some work with kids individually. But beyond that, their schedules are pretty packed. So, but it is something we'll have to investigate. We'll get back to you on that. I don't know what it looks like at that level. I've been more of an elementary guy in my last, I don't want to say how many years, long enough. So my attention has really been on that. And I think that maybe at the high school level, I'll defer to how that looks, or at the middle school level, Mrs. Sutton, who have a little bit more time with it. I haven't been a high school administrator for a long time, so I wouldn't want to speak to that without their feedback.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Here's, and I don't know if we want to continue going down like we were. I think some of these things that are in here, Dr. Fike, are things that are for programs for students that may look like they're not for education. But part of this money is to get our library back up and running. Part of this money is to build our STEM program better. Those are all things that are educational. They're not listed as teachers, but they are all things that we would not be able to afford for our students if not for the ESSERS money. Mrs. Smith, do you want to continue going down through? I think we can skip over that yellow portion, which we just kind of explained as just being ways that we could get those people.
We have the long-term subs. The only question I had about that is, are we looking at a possibility? There are some people who are very qualified to be a long-term sub. However, like some other people that we've had to, check out, we've got an emergency certification for them. Is there a way we can advertise it in a way that, I mean, there could be some very qualified people who could fill in these positions. I know there's such a teacher shortage. If we can't get a certified teacher, to have someone even to cover the gym classes and things so that teachers can get their breaks and the kids can have their itinerants. Is there a way to do that?
Mr. Smith, I'll go back and look, but I thought in an earlier board meeting this year, we had voted on loosening up the requirements that we could hire individuals that might not be BS, but have their bachelor's. So I will go back and pull that data out of board docs, but I do believe that we've made the provision.
I think we said they had to have their bachelor's, but they don't have to have a education.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, and while we said that, I don't know that we look further than nobody applied for this. We can't find anybody. We kind of advertise to certified teachers, which makes sense, obviously. But if we're not getting them, we might be able to get some very qualified people to fill in on a temporary basis.
Good point. We will stretch our efforts to try to do that. I know that we're having a very difficult time trying to find substitute teachers. It's almost impossible today to find a sub.
Do you want me to keep reading down through, Michelle?
That's fine.
Okay, so I'll skip the nursing assistant and all those things. A nursing sub is self-explanatory. The technology, I think, is self-explanatory. We talked about the units. The next one's the STEM computer lab at the middle school. The 3D printers. I know just from speaking to some of the teachers, I know that those were all incapacitated, you can say.
What are those exactly for? I see it's under Mrs. Sutton.
Like, the 3D printers?
Yeah.
That's for STEM class.
What do we use those for?
In the past, they've used them in the STEM class. They made prosthetic
hands.
Hands, yes. I was trying to think of a better way to say that, but it is part of the STEM class.
Also, we are reimagining what that library at the middle school looks like reinvesting in that to turn that into a place that is not just a repository solely for books, but also all kinds of things that are more 21st century oriented as well. We still need those books, but kids need to go there for any number of things. They might be doing projects there. They might be presenting there. They might be doing research there. And we want to get that space, which is beautiful, by the way. The middle school library is one of the most beautiful places. When we were designing it, those of you who were around for that time, that was the center point of the building, right? That was the focal point of the building. And we'd like it to be more up to what kids need right now. So many of the items under Mrs. Sutton's component of that are to make that space and that teacher that we moved into that space really viable again, because for a while there was really just a place to get books and that was it. And while that still has a place, there's so much more that we can do with that space. It needs to be used more appropriately and to give kids more access to it.
Right. I believe that the rest of those things, the replenishment of the library books, the laptops, makerspace, furniture and supplies. To be honest, I'm surprised the budget's not more for the replacement of library books. Having helped to go through some of them, they are so outdated. I mean, it's not even close. I don't think there's been a library budget for a while. And I would say that most of the nonfiction has to be replaced or updated, but I think that's a really good start.
Sorry.
What?
Sorry. No, sorry. Oh, never mind. That's my text message. Sorry.
The Hapera, is that, how do you say it? Hapera?
Yes.
Yeah, Hapera
That's
system.
something we used to do, correct?
Mm-hmm. It's a way for teachers to be able to see student screens when they're working. So if they're using their Chromebooks and they want to make sure the kids are actually using their Chromebooks for something other than, maybe surfing the net, they'll be able to see that without having to walk around and look at each individual screen. We first did our original adoption of the Chromebooks way back when. That was a program that we used, and teachers got comfortable with it and liked it because it allowed them to be able to see all their screens on one screen and make sure everybody's looking at the same thing at the same time.
Yeah, and then I think the rest of it is for the next school year, it's just the extension of those teaching and administrative positions, just to extend them for that second school year. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Did I read everything off, I think?
I think
Yes.
there's two items in there, and Pam, you might want to explain a little bit more about the custodial overtime. There's two items on there for custodians.
Oh, sorry, I missed those ones. Yeah.
Yes. Currently, we have had a shortage of custodians. And obviously, it is very important with COVID cleaning to make sure that we have, that we are staffed properly. So we've been incurring a lot of overtime. And with that, it is certainly acceptable with the ESSER's guidelines to go ahead and put that in for some ESSER funding. So that's just a little bit of help so that we can continue with our deep COVID cleaning for the general fund.
How long is that supposed to last? I mean, I understand that we need to make sure we maintain it, but I mean, because anything used out of the ESSER, as Dr. Claire explained, it's just temporary. So
correct.
Should we? Sorry.
In the future, it is my hope that we have a better staff pool in place so that we're not having to currently use the substitutes and use the overtime that we're currently having to do. So I know Mr. Price has been working very hard to try and get his custodial staff up to where it needs to be. And once that happens, then you'll just have the regular time. So that should alleviate a lot of that.
I did have, I don't know if I can propose it, or I just would like to at least, bring it to the table, but I would really like to see something in here as far as an all-inclusion playground or all-inclusion outdoor recreation facility, something for our special needs students. I think that would improve the quality of life personally, on top of just, with teachers. And I mean, I 100% understand, all of the interventionists and stuff like that, and DNS students and more counselors. But as far as I just don't see much when it comes to our special needs children. And I think that that's something that we could really, take advantage of with some of this ESSER's money. I don't know how I would necessarily bring that to the table, but something I wanted to bring up.
You just did, Mrs. Over.
Oh, okay. Then. There I did. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion?
So if we vote on this next week, when can these things go into effect? Can we start immediately purchasing and advertising positions?
We sure would like to.
Okay.
And procedurally, just so everybody understands, you look through that document, every one of those items will need to be plugged into the e-grant system. That's my work to do. So it will take a little while. We can go ahead and be advertising, but I have to put all that in. The budget must read 0.00. I hit submit. This grant has never been done before, just like the last one. They may return it for corrections. This is not an overnight, hey, thanks for having a plan. Here you go. Here's your money.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. And I want to be clear, guys. I work really hard at trying to keep up with those things. This will take me a little while. That's a lot to put in. And to be sure that we got it right, I'm sure Pam and I will spend a lot of time looking at math. She and I talk about these things a lot. So just to be clear, procedurally, once I'm given the green light to start plugging things in, that does take time.
Okay.
Just to add on to that, there are several items here that do impact conversations that have to occur with the union. And those conversations have begun. They have not concluded, which is one of the reasons why we're proposing this for a vote next week. And I would propose to provide more information to the board before you vote next week on that.
Could we also be sure part of that is the job descriptions for some of the new positions that we'll have? Just because I foresee that as a question.
Yes,
absolutely. That's
Thank
something
you.
that I think the administration needs to work on, and I can support with that as well.
Thanks.
Any other discussion? Okay, track RFP.
The board will be asked to authorize the track RFP attachment to be provided prior to the November 18th, 2021 meeting.
Discussion.
I'm sorry, just as a segue, this just made me think of something that is not specifically related to the track, but I know previously we had approved doing paving work at the buildings. Do we have any idea when that's actually happening?
It will not be happening until next spring.
Oh, okay. So I guess that's why the patches went into the road behind the middle school and elementary school. Okay. Okay. Wait, thanks.
I mean, this is the track RFP happening now. I think this is just a reminder of needing somebody to be staying on top of these things, because we approved a lot of things, but things didn't continue to flow well, and we just need to get back on that. So we waited too long for us to be able to do anything with the paving because the asphalt company shut down, I think, the middle of November. So we kind of waited too long for that to occur. Originally, I thought that we could do that while school was going on, and I'm not really sure how anybody thought that was going to work, since we literally used the entire parking lot for pickups and drop-offs. So I'm not really sure. And we also want to get back on top of the roof at SPC to make sure that that's continuing to be in the works for spring.
Oh, so I don't know why I thought some of this stuff was happening like around now. I don't know why I thought that.
We did think that.
Okay. Okay.
It was, we did.
I guess that's why talking about the track kind of triggered that in my brain, because we kind of were talking about all of those things at the same time. And so I was just like, wait, whatever happened to those other things? So.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Kind of all in the same boat.
Just wanted to check up. Well, I do appreciate the patch job. At least it was very, very much appreciated.
Yes. Yes. I agree.
Any other discussion?
If you don't mind, oh, on this, never mind. I'm good.
Posting of policies.
The board will be asked to authorize the administration to post the policies listed below on the district website. And if you click on that blue link, it will take you to the website for a period of 30 days. These policies are, and they are listed there. And if you click on each and every one of those, it will take you to the actual policy in board doc. And I want to thank Mr. Pushkar for helping me link those. And I also want to recognize Mrs. Christy Smith and her committee. We've been working pretty hard at getting these updated.
Is there any discussion? Okay, Jacob Watershed Association letter of support.
The board will be asked to consider approving a letter of support for the Jacob Creek Watershed Association for EITC funding.
Discussion? Okay, joint purchasing permission to advertise.
The board will be asked to authorize permission for the WIU Joint Purchasing Consortium Board to advertise for the 2022-2023 bid program or programs, advertising jointly as a member of the Westmoreland Intermediate Unit Joint Purchasing Consortium for the purpose of supplies in the following categories: multi-purpose paper and unleaded gasoline and diesel fuel.
Discussion?
Didn't we already vote for the approval of the gasoline and the diesel fuel?
This is for next year, Mrs. Arra.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, joint purchasing consortium representatives.
The board will be asked to approve Ms. Pamela Mondock, business manager, as authorized representative to WIU Joint Purchasing Consortium, and Mrs. Laura Geyer as alternate representative.
Is there any discussion?
So Pam, you don't have enough to do. You have to do this one too.
Well, I think that's part of our transportation, isn't it?
I was going to say it's all a part of the job. Yes.
Yeah.
Your job's big enough.
I'm going to need a motion to adjourn for 3 minutes before citizens comment, but could we please share the number that someone would call if they wanted to call in? Is that the 2005 number, or is there a different number now? That it's
724-640-2609.
Okay, so 724-640-2609.
Correct. Yes.
I need a motion to adjourn for 3 minutes for citizen participation.
A
motion.
I need a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I need a motion to go back into session.
I'll make the motion.
I need a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Do we have some
Sorry, no, I don't.
calls?
Right.
I did not receive any phone calls for public comment.
Thank you. I need a motion to adjourn.
I would like to, I'd like to speak. I would like to speak.
Go ahead.
I went through the agenda. We had 36 items on there. One of them sort of had to deal with education. Thank you.
Well, it all has to do with education when it deals with the school district. Sorry. Did you have something?
Yeah, I don't know, something, I guess you could say could be a public comment, but I did want to see about, and I was going to talk about it during ESSERS, but then I was on mute and forgot that I was on mute. So I wanted to bring up about having like a career fair, especially at the high school, where like you have community colleges come in, not necessarily like, universities. You have local businesses such as Duraloy and Penline and make it like an all-day event. And I'm speaking on this because currently, like, my oldest just graduated last year, and this is something that she has kind of brought to me, like, man, she wishes that she could have. And then I've had some of her friends, other students, have mentioned something like this, like that it would kind of give them a little bit more of a ready outlook of like what's actually here, where they can kind of sit one-on-one, not necessarily sit one-on-one, but like, talk with, different companies from locally and, even up to Pittsburgh, just to have come in for a whole day, and it's a whole career fair, or even like a 3-day thing. I don't know, that would be up to, I know, Mr. Krofchak, but I think that it would do a lot of good, and be very beneficial to our students.
Mrs. O'Rear, I think, and Mr. Krofchak, do you think it could be discussed in academic and non-academic committee to bring back and possibly propose something like this for the students at the high school?
Yeah, we've had career fairs in the past. COVID kind of pushed it off last year, but I think we can probably look at something this year.
Such force is necessary to prevent imminent death or
Perfect.
bodily.
I think maybe once the committees get up and rolling at the beginning of the year, that's something that committees could take a look at to help support.
Okay, sounds great.
Did anybody else have anything? Mrs. Zundel, did you have anything for us that wasn't discussed already?
No, I do not.
Thank you. So I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I need a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everyone.
Good
Thank you.
night.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you, everybody.